So I think to start off today's session, we've been thinking that during lockdown, our lives really have become focused on our homes, very much so. A lot of people of us, we have found that maybe our homes are actually amazing and we live comfortably. But I think a lot of people have also found that their homes are wanting, and they might not have the outdoor space, they might be too small, they might not be fit for purpose if the whole family is cooped up in their home. And I think in some instances also, the homes we live in and the houses we have built in the past have actually, and also the whole housing situation we find ourselves in, has directly contributed to an increase of infections as well. I mean, it is not a surprise that within London, Newham, the London Borough of Newham, has the highest infection rate. It also has the highest percentage of people per household, so the highest level of overcrowding. And I think a lot of these issues have played out behind closed doors in our homes. And I think there has been a lot of discussion about the streets and the spaces, because we could see the impact, we could see the empty streets, the cars were gone, we could see the crowded pavements and the crowded open spaces and parks. But there hasn't been that much discussion about our homes and how that has impacted on our lives, and particularly those that don't have the luxury of living in kind of larger homes with private gardens and private outdoor spaces. I think related to that discussion is an issue that has come up, and I've heard it in kind of some discussion forums. It kind of pushed towards, well, shouldn't we be all living in houses with private gardens? So in a way, it pushed towards a more suburban environment because that might keep us healthier. And also, I think urban environments, I mean, we've seen a lot in the press about New York, but also individual tower blocks have been picked up in the press as very unhealthy places to live, and as places that really exaggerate the health crisis. And I mean, I'm not convinced that urban density is an issue. I think it's a question of how we do it. But I think all these reasons come together in terms of the design of homes, the environments, our neighborhoods, and how we kind of pick up the lessons we have learned and transfer them into the future. So I think today we have three brilliant speakers. We have Annalie Riches, director at Mikhail Riches Architects and recent Stirling Prize winner. We have Hilary Satchwell, my colleague and director at Tibbalds and Mayor's design advocate. And I'm very pleased to have Irina Merriweather from Taylor Wimpey with us, kind of urban designer at Taylor Wimpey. So I think the questions are, is high density urban living bad for us? Do we need to change our perspective? And how should our homes be designed in the future? So I think it's a really kind of a place for discussion and debate. I expect there might be some opposing views within the audience, but let's see and discuss it. So Annalie, you go first.
Thank you. Well, I'm not really going to talk about really high density because, so I mean, in lockdown, obviously I've been reflecting on how, the design of homes themselves, how you would do things differently. Actually, we have managed to change a scheme which was going towards planning and put in some space within it that people could use as a study, because we're if something's up for market sale, we're really pushed towards by estate agents effectively who advise our clients towards the kind of dream of the open plan living that looks really great on photographs and they can sell. And actually we've been allowed to put in some smaller spaces and have a bit of a backlash against them. I'm really glad in my house I'm not, I've got doors because I have, young child here. So I was going to talk about, I've been, reflecting about things like that, but also wondering how well our designs are, how resilient our designs are in this particular time. And I've been thinking a lot about Goldsmith Street, actually, and because it wasn't for market sale, because it was a kind of more of a long-term view, we were allowed to do things that we wouldn't normally be allowed to in other designs. And I think actually, it will probably, and we should do some research on this, it will probably be faring quite well. So I'm just going to quickly talk about the things that I'm really glad that we managed to get into the design. Can I share the screen? Tell me if that works. No? Yes? Yeah? That work? Yes.
Yep, that's working.
Good. Not very good at this. Yes. So I think just quickly looking at that scheme, which has been I have been wondering about it, and some residents have contacted us to see if we're all right. And I think when this is all over, we will chat with them and find out how well it's been faring, really. So how do I? Oh my God. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm not going to talk in detail about the scheme itself. It's just the elements that I've been wondering. I think one of the things we did is on half the street, the south-facing street, we put front gardens where people could sit out, and they have been sitting out. And something I've noticed where I live is the front garden's taken on this new dimension. People have moved tables and chairs out there just to get that kind of interaction and social connection of people walking by. And so I think front gardens that where you have a direct connection to the street actually have really come into their own in this. We put in these we call them ginnels. They were kind of linear play spaces in back gardens, which were also the routes in and out for the bins, which was a really risky thing for our client to do, actually. This isn't the kind of thing a housing association or private developer would allow you to do, this kind of space where everyone meets in it. But I think actually this would have been a great thing to have, just for the opportunity to sit in your back gardens and talk to each other and to pass each other with a 2 meter, they're over 2 meters wide. The plans themselves, I mean, we didn't do open plan. We really pushed to do open plan for private sale, and it's very hard to fight against the fact that something that it has more value because it's the open plan dream. Here we didn't have open plan. We had separate living room and with a door that would make it feel like an open plan space. And actually, I think we might be seeing not the end of open plan, but really for social housing where it's completely occupied because of the bedroom tax. I don't think it's a great thing to have when you've got young children there. And these houses are fully occupied. We've got flats. These are flats. You can see 3 front doors. There's no common parts in this scheme, and the way that works is that there are. You always enter. I mean, I don't know. These aren't very clear, but you always enter into either a flat on the ground floor or a really wide kind of stairwell entrance into your own flat. So again, I think I would have been very nervous having shared common parts during this time, and maybe there's a different way we can think about designing that kind of eliminates these elements. I mean, the whole scheme is about 90 dwellings per hectare. It's not a London density, but still it's a very dense scheme for this amount of houses with private back gardens and all that kind of stuff. It's been very carefully planned on a 14-metre wide street that is a typical Victorian street, but actually allows you to get a really kind of high density in them. So density is really interesting. I mean, I know London, everything's high density, but there is, 90% of new dwellings are not high density. They are very, very low density that are being built. I find that a kind of extraordinary figure. And they look very much like this. These are densities of probably about 25 dwellings per hectare, maybe even less. By all the major volume house builders are doing stuff like this, or it looks very similar. And just to finish off, I have a big problem with this kind of development, and I've trying to explain to people why. I'm heckled a lot by volume house builders. I'm told that this is what people want. I'm a member of the Quality of Life board, and we're doing a kind of survey at the moment to try and find out the kind of housing that's been the most successful in COVID times. But I'd be really interested what people in these houses say about how they feel about their community, because I think one of the things that come into their own at the moment is streets. So just a quick why is this a problem? The houses are, I don't like them. The architecture, don't like it, but it's not the thing I have the most issue with. Just to kind of try and explain it visually. So we took this. This is just, we just Googled new housing aerial, and this is one of the first images that came up, and is by one of the major volume house builders. I have no idea where it is. It's just a kind of, it was at a good angle that we could actually do some kind of relatively scientific analysis on it. So that's, we drew over it basically. So those are the houses. That's what, I mean, as architects, this is the bit we control, really. You know, that people get really stuck into the houses, but we don't have that much control on everything outside. You know, the parking, the size of the roads, the overlooking distances, all these are set by people, and so those are the kind of things that dictate this kind of layout. Those are the green spaces. There's some of them are back gardens. A lot of them are kind of amorphous bits of leftover space that have got grass on them. Those are the trees. Now these are the bits, or these are the pavements. These are the places that as a pedestrian you have priority. You can wander around and not have to look out for a car. And this is where cars have priority in the scheme. And this is the main, this is really the kind of crux of the problem we're facing. We're designing around car use and car ownership. The majority of new places are being built where car dependency is an absolute, because they're nowhere near any of the public service facilities and all that kind of stuff. So the next slide is everything else. That's the bus stops, the playgrounds, the schools, the shops in this particular scheme. And we tried to reimagine this, because I don't think it's really the houses, as I said, don't like them, but that's what people want, fair enough. But if we started to think about giving pedestrians priority, putting kind of leisure and making cars making roads do the hard work, we could have a very different way of planning. And that's what I would hope that people would have noticed during the lockdown, that suddenly we got our streets back. And I had got friends' kids who learned to ride a bicycle finally, and that's, I don't know, maybe that's my hope for the future. Yeah, that's it. Now I have to unshare.
Thank you, Annalie. I think that was really, the analysis of that last scheme was really interesting, and I think we will probably come back to that, but also kind of a nice reflection on something that has been built. And I think you're absolutely right. We need to kind of ask people of how they actually live. And there have been a lot of surveys out there at the moment, so I hope in a month's time we will get a lot of data back of what people actually felt about their schemes.